What's going on, guys? I welcome you back here at Affinity Discussions, and today I want to be talking to you about, or I should say, in light of what's been happening within our world, and I want to put forth to you some possible solutions and how to cope within this rough time we're experiencing. However, before we start, I need you guys to do something for me, if you don't mind. I need you guys to be focused on my every word right now. And I say this with the utmost respect, that whatever you need to do it first before you watch this video. If there are any screaming children that you need to attend to, then see to them right now. Pause this video and go settle them down, then come back to me. That would be better. I say this one more time, not to patronize you. So guys, again, anything that you need to do right now that may divert your concentration, preventing you from listening to me, then I humbly request that you abstain from watching this video until you're able to devote 100% of your mental faculties to this message of mine. And I'm trying my best to say this without trying to come across as being somewhat presumptuous. It's just that I have something very important I need to say to you guys. My aim is not to step on any toes before I've even conveyed my message. I just require your attention. You feel me, right? I hope so. That being said, I'm going to assume that you're giving me your undivided attention. I'm going to assume that you're also keen to know what I have to say. Okay. Now, the whole premise of this video is based upon a single word. A word that, if fully understood and embraced, is life-changing. A word that has the innate power to liberate a person from a state of vulnerability to a state of invincibility. This is a word that nature itself understands the meaning of too well, and its application. This phenomenal word I would like to speak about today is called adaptation. Adaptation. The question should be in your minds. Why do I feel this urgent need to speak to you guys about this word? Why the urgency? Why is this word, adaptation, and its application important to you right now more than ever before? Is there any relevance or use of this word or its application in your life? Well, let's see if we can answer this question in light of what's been happening in our world today. Global pandemic, our governments and their reactions, including their approach, methods and remedies in combating this supposedly global threat. Now, regardless of your personal views and stance in relations to this global pandemic, it doesn't matter right now. What matters now is what's transparent, evident and obviously clear. That the consequences, the ramifications of this global pandemic has changed our world and will continue to do so for a very long time yet. in terms of lockdowns or more lockdowns or lockdowns indefinitely, surveillance, more hardline policing, social distancing, mandatory protective face wear and vaccinations, economy, the handling of money and the creation of new laws in respect to public health, schools, workplaces and major events, whether it be sports, money, religious protesting, surrounded by politics. All these new laws are sure to come into fruition. All of this and more are sure to have a big impact on all our lives on a global scale. It's coming. 2021 will bring about a lot of changes for you to see with your own eyes, especially within the next 10 years. The world is changing. Can you not feel it? The energy, the frequency, vibes, vibrations, whatever you want to call it. Can you not sense that? It feels so different. Something is seriously wrong with our world today. I don't like what I'm sensing. I can feel with my whole heart that the world will never be the same again. 2019 was the last year in which the world held some kind of normality. Our world was never perfect, but it never felt strange to me. Alien. It was home. More importantly, I was familiar with him. As for now, something seems missing, broken. I even dare to say malignant. You just need to feel the energy of the world and its people. People feel unrest, uncertain as to what is going to happen to our world. And their concerns is fully justified. And to be honest, there are some who are not. Some who couldn't give a damn. Some people are just built like that. But hey. However, as for this global threat, and this time I'm not referring to this allegedly pandemic. I'm referring to the aftermath of its inception, like the political, social and the economic instability that is going to be born from all of this. All this and more is yet to still come. Just because things appear to be somewhat normal now, because the mainstream media are not covering the true state of our economic status, whether it be on a national or global scale. The amount of deaths this economic crisis has caused thus far in our global community is astounding, to say the least. The third world countries are hit first and the hardest. Unfortunately, nothing new there, as they depend heavily on international charities to bring them supplies, whether it be clothing, food, medication, or an infrastructure that improves the quality of their living conditions in terms of a more sanitized environment, which in turn will help to prevent diseases and the spread of it. This has now stopped, or at the very least, production has slowed down immensely due to the mobility of resources. I have read that 1 billion people around the world, yes, 1 billion with a B, rely on an estimated 579 billion pounds to be sent back home to help pay for education, food, rent or medical treatment by those who work more in the rich and developed countries. Can you even begin to imagine how many people are going to die due to starvation and a lack of medical treatment? Let's just stop there. How depressing. You see, here in the UK, people are losing their businesses and jobs, resulting in a massive sign-ups of universal credits and other benefits. According to the Department of Work and Pensions, their data shows that in the first 2 weeks of April, it had been reported in 2020 an estimated of 950,000 new claims of universal credit was applied for. That's almost 1 million people. Just check the stats. People are losing their homes, whether it be mortgages or rented accommodations. They're losing their homes at an alarming rate. According to YouGov, who are an organization that researches and analyzes international data, said that 2 million renters in the UK are at risk of losing their homes because they will be unable to pay their rent. And believe me, that's sure to increase as time goes on. I'm just surprised how the mainstream media are not speaking about this more. Or am I? Maybe it's to prevent national panic, civil unrest, right? They say ignorance is bliss. So I guess the more people who are unaware of the true reality of this global economic crisis, then they won't simply worry about it, according to that saying. And by not knowing, we the people will be calm, submissive, which will equal good behavior. So I guess there will be no need for our Prime Minister, Mr. Boris Johnson, to deploy the 20,000 military personnel, which he has given the honoured name, the COVID Support Force, which he has on standby at the ready. Cause for a moment, I was starting to think like a conspiracy theorist, thinking it's time for the UK to experience some kind of martial law. I began to think that the military personnel was called in to assist with the lockdowns, until I heard and became reassured by the Prime Minister's spokesman saying, I quote, "Maintenance of public order is for the police, and there are no plans to use military personnel for public order during the coronavirus pandemic." That's great, fantastic news, because I'm sure people like me were starting to get worried there for a hot second. And I honestly believe that the suits at number 10 Downing Street were starting to feel that energy from us. Hence the clarification of the Prime Minister's spokesman's statement. I remember that statement. That was back in July sometime, I think. And also that statement was further solidified by the police chiefs, confirming there was no current indication that soldiers will be needed. According to Assistant Chief Constable Owen Wetherill, he said the military will probably be called on by the NHS, meaning to provide medical and logistical support, which we all saw on the news, that soldiers were helping to build temporary hospitals for the many sick people. I mean, phew, that was close, right? However, come to think of it, the Prime Minister did mention that 1 out of 5 officers could potentially call in sick, which would result in the police force being spread rather thin throughout the UK. And should that happen, our Prime Minister did say, and the army of course is always ready to backfill as and when, but that is under the reasonable worst case scenario. Ouch. Just when I thought we were out of the woods. So what would be considered worst case scenario? How is this worst case scenario measured? At what point would it be considered justified to use military strength against its own country folk? A definition of worst case scenario would have went a long way. So there is a chance military force could be used on its own people at any time, according to that very general and open statement. Because people are starting to become really restless with this tier system business. How long are people going to put up with all this? We have lives and businesses at stake here. And then we might have a rebellion on our hands. Would that be considered as a worst case scenario solution? Will military might be brought in for something like that? But anyways, I've digressed from the main theme of my topic. But believe me, this is the calm before the storm. You just need to listen to what the real, truthful economists are saying when conducting their research and monitoring the economic trends and what they have in their forecasts for us. Put it this way, you can say it's not positive. You will see. And this is why I have an urgent need to speak to you about the word adaptation and its application, as it's a mindset that you're going to need to have in order to survive while this world goes through its phase of metamorphosis, a transformation. Your mind also needs to go through its own transformation. It needs to evolve and prepare itself in order to match the environment in which it's going to exist in. What comes to mind is biology and the types of evolution. A simple sound advice from me is to study the process of evolution. It's amazing. But what I find even more amazing than that, you can derive life lessons from it. Seriously, just study it. Just study enough for you to be able to subtract the gems, meaning the lessons in it. It's just absolutely bonkers how you can learn from anything and everything and apply it to your own lives. However, you will quickly learn for those organisms that are not able to adapt to the changes of their environment will naturally phase out and die. It's just that simple. And the organisms that survive, their offsprings will inherit mutated genes, making generations after generations more proficient and equipped to deal with the environment they're exposed to. That's exactly how we're meant to be in a nutshell. To make sure that we're on the same page, I think it would be wise of me to establish the definition of adaptation, just in case there's someone watching who doesn't know. You ready? Here's the definition. Adaptation is the physical or the behavioral characteristics of an organism that helps an organism to survive better in the surrounding environment. You can't get any simpler than that. You guys did get it right. Quick mention, just for the record, there are different types of adaptations, but today I will only be talking about just one of them, and that is behavioral adaptation. Why is this important in our time, and how can you leverage this behavioral adaptation to your advantage? Well, in order for me to show you how we first need the foundation, and that is the definition of what behavioral adaptation is, right? Here we go. Behavioral adaptation are changes in behavior that certain organisms or species use to survive in a new environment. That's it. You see? Simple. Pretty much self-explanatory. Behavioral adaptation is usually learned, not inherited. Do you see where I'm going with this? Backtracking to what I said about the world before. The world is entering a new phase. You can kiss the old world bye. We once knew back in late 2019. Believe me when I say those times have gone. It's now a part of human history that will never ever return. Just like the dinosaurs. Let's just accept that simple fact. That way, the transitioning process will be more easier for you. Because you don't see any T-Rexes or Velociraptors running around the streets in this day and age, right? Why? Because they're extinct. Just like having any hope of the world returning back to the late 2019, it's gone. I promise you. So let's move on and keep our eyes in front of us. Focus on the future, not the past. As looking back only causes you to bump into things you would have seen with great ease had you been looking ahead of you. Look forward and keep your eyes on the new world that has been created for all of us. And ready your minds. Mindset is the key. Employ the principles of behavioral adaptation. A new environment is on its way very soon. Behavioral adaptation is a must. Learn about the new world that is approaching. Learn about the things you don't agree about and educate yourself. That way you will be able to defend yourself from ignorance and the many traps that come with this new world. If not, you will intentionally make yourself a victim. If you have a family, there is more reason to educate yourselves about this new world. Defend yourself and your families with knowledge that you can implement. Put down the Netflix. Netflix isn't helping you, isn't going to help you. Reading the right books will. In fact, I read Netflix had 16 million new subscribers in the first 3 months of 2020. I understand as humans, we need some R&R time. Seriously, I get it. I'm with you on that, trust me. However, let's not just use this lockdown time to burn out and kill our brain cells watching Netflix. Netflix is doing just fine with all their old and 16 million new subscribers and more. Don't kill your brain cells. Let's not do that. Don't do that, please. Let's be sensible here and use this time productively. Just like sports, football or basketball. Meaning, within those two games, they both have half times, right? And within that half-time period, the managers talk with the team about the things they're happy and unhappy with. Basically talking strategy and reorganizing the formation of the team if need be, right? Then mapping out a strategic plan with the intention that this strategic plan will take their team to victory. Is that analysis of mine correct? Is this what they do? Okay. Now let me put forth a similitude for what I just said. The first half of the game represents the world we have left behind in late December 2019, and the half-time of the game in which the managers talk and lay down strategical victory plans, that represents our lockdown period. So now in this time, just like the managers in those sports that were mentioned, we would also need to strategize, reorganize, and prioritize our lives for victory by way of simply educating ourselves, then reflecting upon what we have learned and how we are going to implement our newfound knowledge. As you know, Knowledge by itself is rendered useless without implementation. So we need to make sure that ourselves serve as the perfect vehicles or mediums in which our victory plan is to manifest itself. And also making sure we don't place any restrictions, self-limitations upon ourselves that will ultimately weaken or impede, or at the very worst, unintentionally sabotage our own victory plan. So we need to make sure, after devising our victory plan, that we make sure our heart and mind give birth to actions that are full to the brim with conviction, resilience, discipline, and are focused and consistent and ready for the new world that is awaiting us, which is the second half of the game. Let me be clear here and provide for you guys some transparency in terms of what I mean by educating ourselves. How can I put this in a way without waffling on? Put it like this. The future now is all about survival. Survival. You may be thinking, hasn't life always been about survival? My answer is yes, indeed. However, the survival then, in 2019, was much different compared to what we are all going to face in this year. This year is going to bring about a new meaning to that particular word. The Great Depression. The Great Depression is coming. This global crisis has destroyed and continues to destroy all that what you, your families, friends, and enemies were once familiar with. After when this world has been fully decimated, and only then from the ashes will surface a new world that will take a hell of a long time to adjust to. You will see. So the knowledge that you seek is the knowledge that will make surviving in this new world easier. However, the transformation of this world is still in progress and will be doing so over the span of 10 years. But within that time, you will witness monumental changes to almost every aspect of your life if you should still be living within that time. So you still have some time, somewhat. Now, for me to state a one-size-fits-all victory plan would be foolish of me, as everyone's situation is different. Some may have more access to resources than others. Some of you may be living under different governments, which may place more restrictions over some of you more than others. Some of you have different skill sets. Some of you like to read, others may not, and would rather prefer video content or audios. Some of you already have a deeper understanding of the inner runnings of this world, while some may just have the basics of the everyday to-day knowns, such as just going to work and the paying of bills and family holidays, and that's it. I mean, everyone's situation is just different from the next person. Although that may be the case, I will throw out a few things that I believe you should be paying attention to, such as how has this global crisis affect the global economy, and how will it impact your country and its economy and laws, and just your general living on a day-to-day basis. Why? Because some of you may have businesses prior and post-crisis. Some of you may have lost your business or on the verge of losing your business. So you need to know if there is any support for you in these tough times from your government. That's the same with mortgages. And what about welfare? Will the amount of your welfare be affected by this global crisis? These are a few things you need to be doing your research on.